mindset is your $1 million muscle. It's your greatest asset. It's the thing that's going to get you through to reach the heights that you're going for. You got a negative thought, recognize it for what it is. Okay, it's a negative thought, replace it with a good one. And it's like a muscle that you can build over time to where it's like you feel yourself going negative, check yourself, go positive. Pay to get around people that know what the hell they're doing. It's a concept called proximity to power. Or it's like, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most amount of time with. So just imagine this, even if you have to pay for it, surround yourself with strong-minded people. That's probably going to rub off on you. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this edition of Behind the Knock podcast. So this is your host, Jared Everett. This is a podcast to help us spread our brand and awareness for our company, Proficient Windows. So we sell replacement windows, energy efficient replacement windows, door to door. It's a high ticket item. It's a super awesome industry to get into, especially if you're looking to make some money. Now, we're going to do a podcast today, guys. What's interesting about this podcast is we actually have some new hires in the building, and we give them normal trainings with mindset, things like this. However, we're taking the opportunity today to do the podcast live in front of them. So not only do they get the training, but we can use the podcast to scale our training beyond that. Now, mindset, that's what we're going to cover today. In the door-to-door space, if anyone to anyone, they know that the first thing you start with is mindset, whether it's training, whatever it is, setting expectations for how this thing's going to look. Your mindset is your number one asset. And on here it says your mindset is your $1 million muscle. And that's absolutely what it is. It's your greatest asset. It's the thing that's going to get you through to reach the heights that you're going for. So with your mindset, now with mindset, it's obviously super important to have a strong mindset. Why? There is so many factors when it comes to door to door, right? It's you don't necessarily know where your next deal is going to come from. You don't know what you're going to encounter during that day. There's a million things that you can come across, and that's just on the doors. We have personal lives. We have all of these things that can really pull from us. And if we don't have a strong, solid mindset that can carry us through these difficult times, don't expect to have much success in something like this. Now, with the door-to-door, like I said, it's like there's pressure, right? You're knocking on people's doors. They're not expecting you to be there, and you're showing up regardless. It's a commission-only job. So if you don't sell, you don't get paid. So there can be a lot of pressure with that, right? So like I said, situations like that where you're in high pressure or whatever, it's the mindset that will carry you through it. Now, an example of my personal experience with mindset. So mindset's really been a huge contributor to the success that I've had in this industry. Now, a lot of people know, maybe some don't know, I've dealt with some fairly serious health problems throughout my career, especially in the last 10 years, culminating in like some major surgeries and things. And basically I was operating for years on end, just with terrible health. I had a severe ulcerative colitis, and there's a lot of things that come with that to where your life can be rather difficult because it's a digestive disease. You need food to live, and when you have problems eating food, that can be a major problem. But I built my whole door-to-door career within Windows while being in like a flare-up state with ulcerative colitis. And the only thing I can attribute to is getting through that and being successful while dealing with being uncomfortable like that is the mindset. It is the mindset that carried me through all of that. Countless situations where I can hardly even get out of bed. However, I still walk in the door, get into that morning jump start, have a smile on my face, and transfer that energy. Because as a leader, not only in door-to-door, as a sales rep, you have to have a good mindset. As a leader, you have to have a solid mindset, even more so because you're the one that has to lead the way. So that being said, mindset, it's been my biggest asset. It's something that's really carried me through. And, we all have our difficulties, right? So whether you're going through this or going through that, we all have our things. I had my share of difficulties coming up with Windows, and they could be things that are looked at as extremely difficult things, whether it's divorce or health problems or whatever. Again, it's the mindset that really will be your biggest benefit, like the benefit that carries you through things. Okay, so moving on. Before I do so, I have my producer here with Blueform Media, Blake. Now, there is something that's really unique about Blake because he actually was a part of the window industry at a high level for a long time, both as a setter and as a closer. So he has a unique perspective as it relates to these things because, he knows the deal. So before I move on, Blake, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
What up? Thanks for having me on the show.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and we love Proficient Windows. We wanted to get some content and some podcasting clients because we're a media company in the door-to-door space specifically because of how powerful mindset is. I wish a lot of our clients had the mindset that door-to-door knockers have. Yep. And I love it. And not to say other industries have excellent mindsets as well, but I just resonate with this mindset or this industry's mindset the most because it's like, I was telling your new guys here, I'm like, it's almost magic, man. You have to cast good spells in your mind. You got to be, English is the only language that spells a word out, right? Well, other language, they book scribe words or they do something different. They don't call it spelling, So the English language is interesting. I think it comes from some magic kind of like druidic roots, right? From ancient or old German and stuff like that. But it's interesting, and it's very powerful language. And so the things you say in your mind, the things you say to yourself on the daily are really, really powerful things. And you can feel that, and that in the door-to-door industry. It's you get to wake up, new day, fresh start, and you get to say your magic in your head. You get to say the things over and over again that you want to have happen. You get to write down your goals. I mean, other industries do this too, but it's not as tangible as door-to-door or direct sales, right? I got to go, it's on me to make a paycheck, and I got to go use that mindset to my benefit. And it's like, that's where it all starts. That's the battlefield that every door-to-door salesman has to master. Yeah. So I love it.
And I mean, it's life in general, right? We're all going to have difficult things to go through. It's just that when you are in a door-to-door type of situation, it's like an accelerated learning curve. It's like learning on steroids, essentially, because you're getting out there, you're getting uncomfortable, you're engaging people, you're opening up conversation, you're figuring out all this psychology. And again, it's a crash course on your development in terms of communication. And it does not take long to be in a door-to-door space before the people in your personal life start noticing you just carry yourself a little bit differently. You're a little bit more well-spoken. You communicate better. It's crazy, these tangible things that happen from being in a door-to-door space. Now, something that Blake was talking about, obviously, like having a strong mindset gets you through this stuff. But what I was thinking about when he was talking is how powerful the mind actually is. The mind is so powerful, and that's why when we choose words wisely, we choose thoughts wisely, it's because the mind is so powerful. Everything that you see in this room, it came from someone's mind. It was an idea at one point and manifested into a table, into a computer, or whatever it is. So that's how powerful the mind is. It can literally, be a physical material that your mind can manifest. So that being said, with as strong as the mind is, it's like with great power comes great responsibility. So with your mind, with as powerful as it is, controlling the thoughts, controlling the expectations. With door-to-door, I like to tell people, expect success. You'll be successful. And it's just like anything in life. Whatever you expect, that's what you're going to get. If you expect today to be a shit day, well, guess what? It's going to be a shit day because that's what you're aligning your intention with. You're looking for, your brain tries to rationalize stuff. So your brain, if you tell your brain, hey brain, today's going to be a shitty day, your brain starts looking for things that are shitty. And vice versa. Again, the mind's so powerful that when, you think about positive things, you can really manifest some beautiful things and in short fashion. My personal experiences, some of the biggest, I would say, things in my life in terms of relationships and career stuff, it all happened from like manifesting it, putting it on paper, aligning the power of my mind with those things. And then I start seeing them, they manifest, and then I'm able to recognize those things. Luck is preparation meeting opportunity. That's all it is. So you can look at a lot of successful people and say it must be nice. Well, guess what? You didn't see all the tedium, all the bullshit, all the stress, all the problems they had to deal with to get to that point, you know? And again, it's like you pay the dues, you align your awareness, your intention with these positive things, and then that's what you start seeing. And then when you recognize those things, you can see the opportunity within them and then take advantage of them. Now, moving on. So,
do you mind if I tee you up with a question?
Yeah, tee me up.
With mindset, right? We talked about why it's so important in door to door. I have some stuff I can add later, but what are some things? What are some pitfalls or like the enemies of like a strong mind?
Exactly.
Or mindset.
So
door to door?
The enemies would be things like doubt, personal doubt, self-doubt, but also doubt from influence, right? So maybe it's your significant other or whomever it is, your parents, someone's like, you're going door to door? And it's like, no, yeah, 100% I'm going door to door. It's this, people have like they have a bad taste in their mouth about it. And it's like, you know what? The people that operate at a high level in door to door, they are so dialed in with like their personal development and all these things. And a lot of these guys, I mean, they own multiple properties, and it's like, you know, you want to shit on this guy that just knocked your door, but he probably has more money in his bank account than your house is worth. Like, let's be honest. These guys that operate at a high level, it's for a fucking reason. And they're putting in some serious work. And, you know, that money don't make itself.
Have you seen that? There was a clip that went viral, but this door-to-door guy, he had like a cameraman filming him to push his brand. And the homeowner is getting pissed and, you know, whatever. He's being respectful and he's trying to leave, but the guy keeps arguing with him. And then he's like, oh, he says some insulting thing about how, you know, why don't you get a real job? Mm-hmm. Like, you know, you piece of shit. Why don't you get a real job? And then the guy's like, oh, well, you want to compare bank accounts right now? So he kind of catches
Taylor McCarthy.
Was it Taylor McCarthy? Yeah. So he compares bank accounts with the guy, and the guy just like shuts up.
Oh, yeah. And then the guy's like wishing him well and like paying him respect.
Yeah. He's like, sorry, man.
Because Taylor McCarthy, he's a big personality within the solar industry. And the former company I worked for, we actually hired him as a consultant. And, you know, I picked him up from his hotel, drove him around, knocking doors with him, the whole deal. And he's a high-level dude. And, I mean, he's king of the one-liners. Like, we were telling him about Windows, and he's like, it's like, instead of throwing your money out the window, throw your money into the window. I was like, that's good. So yeah.
Jared really likes one-liners.
I like one-liners. But yeah, wit. So I don't even know if he remembers me, but, you know, I spent a couple days with him. This was probably 3-4 years ago. But yeah, super high-level dude. One of the very best in the door-to-door space, as it were, is Taylor McCarthy, and that's who it is. But yeah, so
you mentioned
doubt, right? Personal doubt,
personal self-doubt, and then
external doubt.
Yeah.
Right. And how do you get through that stuff, especially when it's external?
That's a good question. Well, I'd like to, if I may, could I specify some external doubt that correct me if I'm wrong, because I've been out of the door-to-door industry for a few years doing this media stuff. But one of the biggest things we ran into with new hires, you could have a rock star, you could have the most talented guy in the world, but their choice in spouse, well, maybe not choice, but the buy-in of their spouse or significant other, even if it's just a girlfriend. We've seen some rock stars get a girlfriend and then they just tank because of they got the personal doubt conquered. Mm-hmm. But when you attach your livelihood to someone else like a spouse, that's a big factor too.
Yep. And if they don't support you, you could be a player number one, all the potential in the world. It ain't going to work out because it's hard to manage your mindset when you have that external pressure of your significant other. And I've seen more specifically with young guys, and I think it's just a maturity level in terms of their significant others, because typically when people are a little bit older, more mature, more established, that spousal support, generally it's not really an issue. I tend to see it a lot of times with younger guys and gals, in terms of just their partner not necessarily being that mature, not being able to see the vision. And also it's up to, the person that's doing the work and making those commitments for that opportunity. It's up to them to communicate, right? So it's like, you want to have shared goals. You want to make sure that y'all are on the same page when it comes to this thing, because if you're operating on this level and she has no idea what it is you're doing and why you're doing it, she's not going to understand what you're doing, and she's going to think that maybe you're doing something else, or you're not paying enough attention or whatever it is. And it can turn into a shit show is what can happen. So again, communication and y'all are in this together. I think Drake said it on another podcast that was like, his success isn't his success. His wife supports the shit out of him. And it's like, it's not my success, it's our success. And her support of him is what allows him to already be an A-player guy that can really kick some ass. And the fact he's got that support behind him, then it's like he's even better than he would have been by himself, because he has that support, that someone to hold him down. So
what would you say? I'm going to keep asking you questions, but what would you look for? Like, let's say a new recruit comes to join Proficient Windows, to join your team, and they're like, that their spouse is like slow to get on board, or what's some stuff that you look for? Is there something you ask for? How do you find this out if you have a new hire with a spouse?
It's hard, right? And it's definitely worth asking, right? Hey, what does your wife think about this? And a lot of times they're like, well, they're not really sure. They're like, hey, we'll just see how it goes, sort of vibes, because they at least talked her in enough to. This is just generally speaking. There's a lot of men in the industry. There is a huge, I don't want to say resurgence, but there's a lot of women in the industry that are doing extremely well. So, this is more or less just kind of basing it off of what a lot of my experience has been up until this point, before there was as many women as there are now in the industry. Now, that being said, what was the question? Sorry.
What are some things you look for, or how do you get out ahead of that?
Yeah, so one thing that can really help is involving the spouse. So like team events, things like this, allow them to invite the spouse, because it's one thing for them to hear all this stuff. Okay, yeah, I believe when I see it. Now, when they can get around the team and they start feeling the energy of things, and they can start talking to people and asking them, their experience and their take on things, and it's all just lining up, then it's a lot easier for them to believe it, right? It's that first kind of hand experience. And what I've noticed a lot of times when I'm able to get in front of that significant other, it usually goes a long way, because I try to be a very authentic person, just do the best I can with what I have, and people tend to feel that. They can feel when someone's authentic. So when they meet me, typically they can just feel the person that I am, and it really kind of like alleviates concerns. That's what I'm getting at. And the best way to be a good recruiter, have a good reputation. If people think well of you, and then you offer them an opportunity, they're much more likely to take it serious if you have a good reputation. So a lot of people have asked me over the years, like, how come you're such a good recruiter? What are your tactics? I'm like, a lifetime of hard work and integrity. So something as simple as just getting them involved with like a team event, so they can, again, feel the vibes of the team, ask questions, get on the same page. And it's like, it's like a qualified appointment, if you will.
It's like they need proof, right?
Yeah.
So like doubt being the first enemy, like in a door knocker's career, right? Doubt is like the first enemy of that door knocker, right? And so I think one of the biggest things that happens is people get proof. Oh, sorry, we got to get this set up again. But people get proof. Like the sooner you get to the proof, the more everyone's belief goes. The doubt goes away, right? Like as a door knocker, the more I sold, the more proof I had for my own personal belief. And then also it helps when a fat paycheck's hitting your bank account, because then any doubt that your spouse might have had is now alleviated.
You're like, look at this, baby. Yeah. She's like,
yeah.
And that happens. That conversation happens a lot. So, and that's another thing that it's like, it's really important to have a good structure, good training, all of these things, because part of the way we approach things is to get people paid quickly. If I can get you a deal within like your first week of checking your script off, the likelihood of you sticking around a month greatly increases. If I can get you 5 deals within your first month, the likelihood of you sticking around anywhere from 6 months to a year greatly increases. Now, not only is that, that serves you and your personal belief, but also when you have that influence of that spousal support and you're getting paid quickly and getting paid well. And again, with Windows, you're paid most times next week on this stuff, 100% of your commission up front. That money can come quickly. And it's a lot of money. And I remember when I first started making good money with it, I felt like I was dealing drugs or something. It was like, there's no way that the effort that I just put in equaled that outcome. But it's what it was.
Can I share a story about that?
Yeah.
With external belief, too, I had some family that were kind of doubtful about direct sales. And I remember we were talking at dinner one time, and this particular family member was asking about who does my lawn.
Yeah, I remember the story.
Yeah, or like if I mowed my own lawn. And I was like, I mean, normally I would, but I kind of like, accepted this new idea where like I just pay a guy to do it, because my belief in the commission, my belief in my time is more valuable.
Exactly what you value yourself at.
Yeah. So he was like, oh man, I never would do that. He's like, I'm too proud. I'd always mow my lawn. And so typical guy answer, like, the dad, the guy who has a nice lawn. Is
you don't mow
proud.
your own lawn, you're not a man.
Yeah. You got to do it yourself. You don't change your own oil. And it's like, yeah, there's some truth. I think I should be capable of all those things, but is it the best usage of my time? And the answer was no. And so I was like, well, let me paint you a picture. If I close a window deal, these are high ticket items. And so, I pay a guy, $100 a month. At the time, it's gone up because of inflation, but I pay him $100 a month. That's $1,200 a year. He's like, yeah, that's ridiculous, man. I'd save that money and do it. I'm like, yeah, well, to put it, if I'm available to close a window deal on Saturday, instead of mowing my lawn, in about the same amount of time, I could probably make $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. But on average, it'd probably be around $3,000. So I'm like, would you pay a guy $100 to mow your lawn while you go make $3,000? And he's like, just like, you see the light go on. He's like, oh, I never thought of that. I'm like, that's what an hour of time is worth to me. So I'd pay someone $100 to do something for me while I go make $2,900 and I lose $100. Right? It's just it's just common sense. So I'm like, if I'm available on a Saturday rather than mowing my lawn, I can pay for 2 years worth of lawn care service with 1 hour of work. Yep. That's why you said it feels like drug dealing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't feel right.
And that's the thing too, is because that compounds over time. So say, you mow your lawn once, twice, 3 times a month, whatever it is, that's an hour each time. I mean, you could be costing yourself upwards of $10,000 a month. It could be a 6-figure difference in you mowing your lawn or not. So it can be hard for people to understand that stuff, but it's like, what is your time most valued at? Is it mowing the lawn all hot and sweaty and itchy and all this stuff? Or is it go sell some windows? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Awesome, dude. And now something else is like negative thought patterns that, you just get in these loops, right? So it can be difficult for people to overcome that stuff, but it's like you can control your own thoughts. So a lot of times, maybe if it's like if you're trying to get rid of a bad habit, the best thing to do is like replace it with like a good habit. So you got a negative thought, recognize it for what it is. Okay, it's a negative thought, replace it with a good one. And it's like a muscle that you can build over time to where it's like you feel yourself going negative, check yourself, go positive. But what people can experience in, say, neighborhoods, for example, sometimes people aren't so nice. Depending on the severity of how mean they are to you, really depends on your ability to understand social cues and social awareness, and maybe like not escalate it and de-escalate it. So
definitely don't add to the flame.
Exactly. In my personal experience, thousands and thousands of doors knocked. I've had very few instances of where it was like, they were like actually mean. And, again, it's just like benefit of the doubt. A lot of things are perspective based, so you never know what they're going through. Maybe they just found out the worst news of their life and I knocked on their door. Assume best intentions, right? And like I said, what I like to do, if I see them trying to escalate at all, just remove myself, protect my sanity, protect my energy. And that's part of why my bad experiences are so limited, is because it's the recognizing of those things. Not everyone's going to see like social cues and things the same, but that's why you put in the work, right? Develop yourself personally, get out there, knock doors, put yourself in those uncomfortable situations. You'll grow, you'll build that mindset, and then you'll have the success you're looking for.
Yeah, you'll get the repetitions. Do you mind if I cherry on top of that?
Some sprinkles too, if you want.
Yeah, some sprinkles. So think about, Jared, what he said there. Thousands of doors knocked, right? And if someone says no, or someone's rude to you or whatever, right? I see a lot of door-to-door salesmen, the young guys. The reason that ruins their day is because they feed into it and they make it about their ego. And so, they quip back, or they put another jab in there. They escalate the situation by being catty, by being childish, or trying to flex their ego. There's a difference between standing up for yourself, and defending your position. But then there's also a time where it's like, is this my ego? Right? So they put their own ego in there. So just make sure it's not your own ego.
Yeah.
And protect your mindset, right? If there is a jerk, don't waste time with them. If they're not willing to hear you out and, they're harassing you because you knocked on their door, right? Be respectful and leave. And sometimes they'll follow you and film you and do weird stuff. That's happened to me before. But, just move on. Just get rid of that energy to protect your mindset, right? Just protect your mindset. It's almost, if you're Christian, the phrase, turn the other cheek, right? And it's kind of like that. You just move on. It's a maturity thing. I'm here to protect my mindset, so I'm not going to let that affect me. I'm not going to spend time. I don't need my ego to win. I don't need to get this sale so bad. I don't need to get the final word in on the door. If someone's going to be a jerk, let them be a jerk. Wish them well, have them, and move on. Right? Protect the mindset from that, because every time I've had a bad day because of that, it's because I fed into it. It was totally I chose to not protect my mindset, right? From an external. I chose not to. So that's my cherry on top.
Nice. Now, one thing that, as you were saying that, kind of had this little thing pop in my head. It's a good way to develop your mindset is the reset. Figure out those times where your mind's getting into that, and then reset. Again, it could be as simple as, replacing a negative thought with a positive thought, or other tactics you can do, like, reach out to your leader. If you feel yourself getting in those funks, find something that you can reset yourself. If it takes you going to the gas station and getting a drink and taking a piss and sit in your car for 30 minutes, I'd rather have you not knock for an hour and get your mind right than knock all damn day and have a shit attitude and just burn leads, right?
And ideally too, I think one of the best, there's layers of it, right? Like when the police are, before they go to their gun, like they have an escalation of force, it's almost like you have to have a de-escalation of yourself. And so step one is like, go to the next door, like hit the next one. That is also a reset, because why? I'm physically leaving a location, I'm moving, I'm marking a pin on that, I'm dispositioning the neighborhood or whatever. I'm recording what happened in a way, but then I'm moving on and I'm going to the next door. But if it's severe enough where you're really out of whack, then it's escalated. Like, what do I need to do? Okay, I went to the next door and man, this guy's still on my mind. Okay, go to the next door. Do that, do that next door a couple times, like hit 4 or 5 more. You might slot back in. You might get over it quicker. Then if you're like, man, I'm just not getting anything. I think I'm ruining these doors. Or this is prime time. Because if it's prime time during the day, you probably shouldn't go to the gas station. You should probably just get over it. So, but yeah,
I've never had to go to the gas station, but
yeah, yeah. I mean, sometimes it's good to go move area, right? You're still in prime time. Go to your car, drive like like a block over and go there, or switch streets, but like stay in the pocket, try to stay in the pocket as long as possible.
Yep.
Right. Now, if it's like midday, I'm like, hey, I'm just getting some doors done in the morning. I know most of the neighborhood's not home. I'm knocking what we call signs of life, right? You're going around. I see cars in the driveway. I'm going to go, see if they're interested. If you need a reset like that, that's fine. Yeah, go hit your gas station stuff. But there's a ton of door knockers that would really scorn you for that.
Yeah.
But when you're new and you're starting out, right, like find this, the whole point of this suggestion is find what works for you.
Exactly.
Right. And a little bit of a reset is what Jared's getting at. A 30-minute reset's better than like being defeated for hours and just wasting energy.
Yeah. Because that's how a sales slump can start. Like, it's a slippery slope when you get on it. Mm-hmm. So have these things in mind in terms of how you can reset. And I would say the first recommendation is reach out to your leader, because
that's a good one.
There's so much shared experience amongst the leadership within the Proficient Windows that we'll have something for you. I have enough experience. There's, maybe you'll come up with something I don't know what to do with, but there's a lot of reps that I've had the opportunity to work with over the years, all walks of life, ages, shapes, colors, whatever. So I've had a lot of experience, and I bet I'd be able to help you. So rely on the leadership, but that reset, like to have a strong mindset, have a strong reset. That's what I'm getting at. And what else we got here? So now part 3, okay? So there's parts to this stuff.
Real quick,
go ahead.
Just to go off your notes, because you wrote this down. I want to honor your preparation because I think it's really valid for door knockers. But the last two are, but comparison. Like this is, I would say, once you've got a rhythm and you've knocked doors, you're making sales regularly. You're changing your life. You're pulling in big paychecks, or maybe you're not, but like you start comparing to other salesmen, right? Like there's a lot of internal competition in door to door, right? Like you want to compete, you want to be the top dog, right? Like you have that innate competition that happens in sales. And so like the comparison is the real thief of joy, right? This like the phrase or the saying, but just remember you're competing with yourself. So compare what you did. Like if I'm knocking in the evening, I'm going to compare how I did yesterday or even this morning. Compare to yourself, and that will help protect your mindset quite a bit. Yeah, it's a me versus me mentality with stuff like this, because we're all on a different a different path with this stuff. And certain guys, they walk into it and they're just God's gift to Windows, and everything they touch turns to gold. Other guys, it takes them a while to get things going. And what's funny is a lot of the guys that I've seen take a while to get going, they're still in the industry to this day. Because what can happen is you come in with a fast start, you think you're God's gift to Windows. And so maybe you start getting a little bit cute with your training, your process, how much actual work you're putting in, and then your numbers will start to slip over time because you're not sticking to the basics. And then because it's not working anymore, then you get all up in your head about it and a bad mindset about it, and it's a slippery slope. There's something in the door-to-door space, we call it the 90-day phenomenon. Typically, people come in, they do super good for no apparent reason. It's because their energy's right and they're sticking closer to their training. And by the time that 90 days is up, they get so cute and think that they know what's good, and they know more than their leadership that's been doing it for years, and they've been doing it for months, and they start doing their own thing, and they start slipping. And like I said, there's that 90-day phenomenon where it's this curve, or where they start super hot and then they just trail off and peter out. Where, like I said, I've seen a lot of these other guys have come in maybe a little bit slower, and they never had the opportunity to get cute. They never thought they were God's gift to Windows. So they had to just keep putting one foot in front of the other and just getting better and adding a layer of skill set to it at a time, to the point where, maybe the first 3 months that person made way more than they did. But over the course of 6 months, now they're catching up. Over the course of a year, they're making even more. That other person's not even there. And like I said, I know a handful of guys that they were slow starters, and they're still in this industry to this day. And I've seen those guys consistently be a number 1, number 2 guy month in, month out. And like I said, it's when you don't have a fast start like that, you tend to put one foot in front of the other and just keep getting better, and you don't get cute.
my personal experience, I wasn't the greatest coordinator. I was consistent at best. But it was just kind of putting the one foot in front of the other, because it was like I had guys coming in that they started after me and they have more sales than I did. And it was like a race to 15 so I can get my director's script. And I'm like, what am I doing that this guy's so much better? But at the same time, that even that same guy that came in super hot, he's no longer in the industry, and I'm still there, even though I had a much lower start than him. So I like to share that, because it's like a lot of people, they have that 90-day phenomenon and they don't know why. My opinion, that's why. Now, the part 3 that I was alluding to is how do you like rewire your brain for this stuff, right? So a couple things like, reset your mind, things like this. But, what are some daily practices that y'all can incorporate for getting a better mindset? So in any scenario, I recommend having a solid morning routine, right? Now, several reasons why you'd want it in the morning time. One is that it primes you up for the day, right? I don't know if you guys ever heard, I think it's called Eat That Frog or something like that, where it's like, you got a whole list of shit to do during the daytime. And like, one of them is like, you got to eat a frog. It's like, hard, slimy, moving creature to eat. But it's like, a lot of times people will save the hardest thing for the last. And what the book entails is basically that you would do the hardest thing first. Just get the hardest thing out of the way, and everything's way easier after that. So in terms of like your personal development habits, like morning time, reading, writing, exercising, whatever the case may be, that's the time where, it's not necessarily easy to do that stuff. Like you have to make yourself do that stuff. And you get those wins early in the day, get the hard stuff out of the way, and then it's like you primed up, and it's like momentum into the day. It's momentum into your jump start, momentum into the neighborhood, all of these things. So, and then also what it does is, why you'd want to do it in the morning time is because that's when the world's quiet. The older you get, the more responsibility you have. Everybody wants a piece of you, whatever the case may be. And if you choose a middle of the day or a nighttime to get this stuff done, you might not get it done. And, or if you do, it might be at the expense of like, say my wife, for example, sometimes I'm reading and writing at night. She's just sitting there twiddling her thumbs. And it's like, we could actually be spending this time together and building our relationship and talking or whatever. I need to do this in the morning time, get it out of the way. And then I can spend that time with her and build the relationship. Because the personal development, that's to build myself. That doesn't build my relationship necessarily. I got to put the work in for that too. So multiple reasons why you'd want to have a solid morning routine. But again, when we're talking about mindset, you get the hard things out of the way in the morning time. You do those things that develop you. That, again, it primes you up to have a good mindset because you're already primed up to get out in the neighborhood and be successful. So also identity drives activity. If you believe you're a leader or top closer, your actions align. Like I said, if you expect success, you'll align your intentions and your visibility, like your awareness of things, of what that looks like. And on the contrary, if you expect to have negative interactions, you expect everyone to say no, like that's what you're looking for, and that's what you're going to find, right? So really just checking yourself on those things. And, if you got to just sit there in the mirror, I'm not a huge affirmation guy, probably because I've just always been like stupid confident for no reason. I don't know why. That's just how I'm built. And there's things I'm confident in that I should not be confident in, but that's just how it is. But with that being said, it's like, maybe you do have issues with confidence. That's fine. That those affirmations, those can really help, because when we talk about the power of our words and the English language and casting spells and all this magic and stuff, you say that stuff out loud and you say it with emphasis and you look yourself in the eye and like say it like you believe it, right? And you do that consistently, your brain's going to have no choice but to align itself with that reality and find that truth. All right. And investing into yourself, right? What are some things that you can do to invest in yourself? There's a morning routine. That's obviously something. Like Blake, what would you say are some other things you can do to invest into yourself?
I mean, your skills, right? That's the biggest one. As far as investing a monetary amount, like buy books, read those books. That helps with mindset. That helps with your knowledge base. That helps with your skill set, right? I think it was one of you guys who you were watching podcasts, right, Tyler? So Tyler said he's been spending a lot of time watching podcasts and stuff, and you're hearing all these people talk about skill sets like your tone, your body language, asking questions, and then listening. Like, so there's a whole slew of skills you can get. That's investing in yourself. Eat healthy, be healthy, improve. Like, just improve that. That's an investment in yourself too. Not getting dopamine from some shitty garbage food, right? Getting your dopamine from a sale rather than something else. Like, this was a big thing for my team when I was out there doing stuff. So I forgot to switch camera angles. It's hard to be a podcast producer and a podcast guest. So this is our mobile setup here. But yeah, man, the investing in yourself is huge. It's like, you're increasing your value within the field is what you wrote here. So your skills, your mindset, your leadership abilities, it basically just comes down to your skills. I would also say your health. Skills, health, relationships, those are all investing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a spectrum of things, And on top of that, a thing that you can invest into yourself is like pay to get around people that know what the hell they're doing.
Oh yeah.
For me, it's a concept called proximity to power, right? Or it's like, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most amount of time with. So just imagine this, even if you have to pay for it, surround yourself with strong-minded people. That's probably going to rub off on you. And when you get around these people, very rarely will you find one of these successful people where you're like, wow, that dude really has a lot on me. There's a reason why he's so successful and I'm not. Very rarely will you run into that. For the most part, you realize these are just regular people that had a consistent set of habits over a period of time that led to their success. Like I said, I've had the opportunity to be around some really successful people, and very rarely have I felt like a dummy. Probably one of the only guys that makes me feel dumb is like Alex Hormozy, because he's just dropping bombs left and right. But yeah, so that's the thing. It's like and also while we're on it, a lot of people, they get in the industry and maybe they do make money quickly, right? And they're like wondering what they should invest into. Like, should I invest into real estate? Should I do Bitcoin? Should I do this? Should I do that? First investment's yourself, 100%. Your first 100 grand, put that down on yourself. And that will compound and turn into way more than you can ever have imagined, like what the 100 grand would be worth. Way more than like an 8% return or whatever you'd get on a 100 grand investment. It's compounded over and over again because you turn yourself into a high value person, and that high value person is what attracts those opportunities and gets that sort of outcome. Huh? Yeah. Okay, so let's move on. Maintaining and winning mindset long term, right? A lot of this stuff, it's like we can get going on it, but then if we're not consistent with it, then it just kind of peters out, right? Or you go to like a conference. You paid to go to that conference, but what do you do with the information? Do you apply it? I mean, you wrote the notes down. Did you even read your notes when you got home? Did you come up with any action items? The common thing, and I've done this a lot, is you go and you pay to go to these places and you feel all the energy and the stuff, and like you leave with this new and improved mindset, and you don't follow up on any of the information. You don't keep it top of mind. You don't get intentional with the information, and then 2 weeks later, you might as well not have gone. So it's really important when you do invest into yourself, follow through with it. Don't just think, well, I paid money, I went to the event. No. What did you get from the event? How can you apply that moving forward?
I agree. I think execution is the only thing that matters. Right? You can dial in, you can get better, but if you're doing the doing, that's what counts, right? People, and I can relate a podcast or a content analogy too. Like if you're waiting around to get your pitch perfect in sales, or you're waiting around to get your podcast perfect, like it doesn't really exist yet. Like make it exist first, right? Get a sale first, like start, then refine it, and find out systems and processes that can make you do it consistently and repeatable, right? Because so in the content world, if I could create Jared in Proficient Windows. I could create you guys the dopest, the illest, the most amazing video ever. But how often can I do that, and how frequently? Because it's a different social media world out there, right? You can't just go viral because you made a cool video. It's got a lot of cool videos get buried because of the way the algorithm works now. So you got to make a cool video every week, every day if you can, as many times as you can. So how can you repeat it as much as possible, right?
Yeah.
You can get that sale, but can you do it every day? Can you do it once a week? Can you do it once a month, right? Like how well do you want to eat, Because I know a lot of sales guys, they can blitz for a couple months and then they let the gas off. That's a whole nother model. Works for pest control, works for summer sales. A lot of value in that. But people need windows year round, right? So how can you make it consistent where you're landing a big ticket item 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times a week as a closer or as a setter, right? As in the Proficient terms, it's the coordinator and the director, closer, setter model. So how can you do this over and over again? Consistency over time. It's just nothing matters unless you can execute.
Yep.
Yeah.
And this is something I've heard Sam Taggart say a lot is consistency over intensity, because there's only so long you can go super hard and be intense. And sometimes it's appropriate. Like say right now where you guys are, because we do have some reps live in the office right now, where y'all are, just act like it's final exams, right? You got to cram information. It's not always going to be cram mode, right? There's always the consistency of development, but right now, it's like you have to learn a new script, learn new stuff, put in extra time, right? Go a little hard right now because it's the season too. But what I'm getting at is, or what Blake's mentioning is, we've seen reps where they'll set a record. They'll go so hard and set a record that maybe no one will ever touch again. But then what happened the next month and the month after that? They weren't even working. They were, I got sick, I did this, or whatever it is. And as a leader, it's way easier to lead someone who's consistent than someone who's up and down, right? And then what does that show to your team? You allow that to be on your team? It's like, well, yeah, he makes a lot of revenue, but then where's he at after that? I would rather have the consistency than just this up and down. And like I said, it's consistency over intensity, because the guys that I know, that they're still in the window industry and they'll have amazing months. Months better than I've ever had. But at this point, they still have not progressed past their positions that they came in entry level with. They haven't progressed in their life at all either. They're still, catching rides and bumming rides. It's like, dude, you made 40 grand last month and you're bumming a ride. So that's what happens when you're not consistent. So it's consistency over intensity. And that in and of itself helps build up that mindset on what this thing looks like. Because you just need to put one foot in front of the other. Now, take care. You got to protect it. That's your number one asset. You got to protect it, right? So in terms of the things you allow in your personal life, the things you allow on the doors, have boundaries that protect. And like I was mentioning, the Atomic Habits book, right? It's more or less you want to just set yourself up for success. So your environment is super important. Set your environment up to where it's easy to manage the mindset, because you don't have to put mental energy into anything else than what's already there in front of your face, right? So there's intention behind how you set things up that make it easier for you. All right, so moving on. And then obviously we've kind of covered it, but it's like the personal development, right? If you're healthy, it's way easier to have a strong mindset. I've spent a lot of time having a very low health status, anemic, needing blood transfusions, all sorts of interesting things. And the first things that go are your patience and your enthusiasm. And I was lucky enough to be able to overcome that stuff and really work my ass off to do it. That's not a normal thing. And
I got to shout you out, dude.
Go ahead.
Give me this camera. Bam. I was watching Jared Everett battle ulcerative colitis. I've seen you at your lowest of lows. And as a leader,
he's taken me to the hospital to get those blood transfusions.
After 2 weeks of knocking doors in Vegas and him managing a team of 12 people, moving obstacles, making sure people are on task, correcting, doing everything that door-to-door leaders do in the field, and then also managing expectations from like upper management and owner, and keeping, the shit that rolls downhill just naturally with that stuff, keeping it off our backs. I watched Jared Everett slave away with zero health and have one of the best mindsets I've ever seen. So I got to give that to you, dude. Like,
appreciate that.
As your podcast producer, like, there's a reason why I flew here to do podcasts for Jared, because he's running a company. He's running this shit, and I want him to succeed as a homie, as a friend, as a client, as a former door knocker. So, dude, I got to shout you out on that. Like, it was some really amazing stuff to watch you do that. The health issues that you've overcome, every reason in the book, every excuse to have a shitty mindset and a shitty attitude. I mean, you had some bad days every now and then, but you never let the team see that.
Yeah.
You could lean on me as a peer on occasion because we got it. We understood it. But, like, the amount of pick-me-ups and energy that you would bring, and we could tell if you were low or you were feeling good, but you always brought whatever maximum energy you could bring, you brought for, I think, almost 3 years straight.
Yep.
3 years straight, man. Like, so if you see him, let's listen to this guy's story. And if you guys know Jared Everett, if you see this on YouTube or you end up working for him, ask him about it or comment here, like reach out to him and tell him thanks, man. Cause he led by example the whole time he was down. So that's all. I'm switching cameras.
I appreciate that, Blake. And it is what it is. We don't know what we're made of until we're faced with things. And, it just turns out that I'm a fighter and I'm just going to keep going. So, but what I've found over time, and just as a child, like I said, I'm probably stupid confident, and I'm always like problem solving mode. Like, there's a will, there's a way. It took me a long time, especially in leadership, to understand that not everyone's like that. And you can't project yourself onto people. You can't put certain expectations. Just because you did it doesn't mean the next person's going to do it. And so as a leader, you really need to understand that those things, especially if you're a high level person that's just built a certain way. You can't project that onto people. You need to understand everybody has their own path. And as a leader, also understanding how to tailor the approach for that person to give them what they need so they can develop, because it's not a one size fits all. Then also as a leader, understanding how to put the best players in the best positions to win. And I had the opportunity to be a leader for Blake for a long time, and I learned so much from him, and also finding the right position for him. There is like 6 window companies that have their business model based off of what Blake and I developed. So pretty awesome stuff. So guys, that's it for the Mindset podcast. Really appreciate y'all tuning in. We're going to be coming regular with this stuff, obviously. I'm sure y'all have seen the content. So like, subscribe, comment, all those good things. Reach out to us, DM us. We're always looking for good people. So reach out. Have a great day.